But what made me laugh actually while I was there, so I was seated in the, I'll say, VIP section of the O2. It's where, you know, anybody who got a VIP pass would be sat. So I was sitting there enjoying the show, and I was just sort of looking around, looking over my shoulder to see who's there. And 2 rows behind me was Nigel Glockler from Saxon.
Yeah.
All right, Nige. I feel you all right. And I just thought, I thought to myself, wow, I've got better seats than Nigel from Saxon. That's what I thought.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Drum for the Song podcast. My name is Dane Campbell. I am your host. And today's guest is the fantastic fellow, friend, colleague. I've known him a long time, Mr. Phil Woods. He is my A&R for Remo Drumheads. He also works at EMD distribution. Sorry, I couldn't get my words out.
That's all right. It's a difficult word to say, Dave.
It is.
You know,
it is quite hard to say.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I know, but we go back quite a while.
A long time. I would say. Oh my God! I reckon it's probably. What year is it? 2023. Yeah. Right. I'd say it's got to be coming on a good 15 years. Probably, possibly even more than that.
Yeah, I was going to work that out. I think, disclaimer, I used to use Stagg cymbals. So they were very good.
You did indeed. Absolutely.
And I believe that's how we got introduced to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
I believe it might have been around the 2010, 2011 I started using them. So
that would sound about right. Yeah.
12, 13 years.
That certainly tracks. I mean, I've got to say, you probably, I think you were one of the first artists that expressed an interest in becoming an endorser. We'll get onto that a bit later on.
Okay. Well, that's something I didn't know, so that's cool.
Yeah. I'd say you're probably in the first 3 or 4, I reckon.
Oh, wow. That's good. But it was great stuff.
Thank you.
People move on, you find other things you like, and
of course, yeah, absolutely. But, it's quite a natural thing to do, that's what people do. They just they progress and want to try the stuff, which is absolutely cool. It's part of being human, I guess, and part of being a musician as well. Just trying new things.
I know, and it never ends, which fortunately probably keeps you in a job, because people always want to try new stuff.
It's very, very true. I mean, it's quite it's interesting. I mean, it's really never a dull moment with my job, especially when it comes to things like artist relations, because and with Remo particularly, because it's such a household name. I mean, it's synonymous since 1960, I think. They emerged, probably even before that. But yeah, I mean, I get inquiries practically every day, from young drummers or even older drummers who have been, using other heads and they think, I tried a set of Remos the other day and then they're amazing, can we blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So yes, yeah. Like I said, it's such a household brand, and it's still a very really interesting brand to represent in an artist relations capacity. It keeps me in step with everything that's going on. So I can't fault it at all. It's and they're a great company, great guys to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always said this about Drumheads before, that it's one of the only kind of products that I can think of where there literally is only there's the 3 kind of, I would say, more mainstream brands.
Yes.
And there's literally 1 or 2 or maybe 3, other brands that people might be familiar with, or maybe they've tried, but not.
There aren't that many. You've got Remo, obviously. You've got Evans. You've got is Aquarian still around?
Yeah,
I think so. And Code is who are. I mean, they've been around for what, about 5 or 6 years, maybe, but they're doing really well. Especially here in the UK, especially. I'm seeing a lot of activity with drummers using code heads, which is absolutely it's great. Good on them.
Again, it doesn't help your job. But
that doesn't help. It doesn't. No, I suppose it doesn't really. But it's. But again, if drummers are individual fickle beasts, aren't they? So they try things and they stick with what they like. And thankfully. Most of the players who use Remo, whether they be, amateur or professional alike, that they stick with it because they're very loyal. That's what I'm getting at. Is that our user base is a very loyal lot.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing.
I would agree, and I think I would say the majority, maybe not all drummers, have a little bit of, OCD, perhaps.
Yes.
And I know that there's some people that maybe are not that way inclined, but especially me. Mm-hmm. Like, I like everything to be matching.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. Yes, of course.
So people, and when people have drum kits, there's a lot of drum heads on a drum kit.
Yeah.
You think of the battered and reso heads.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like mixing and matching. I know I wouldn't want to ever do that. So I think, even though, there's probably a few models of other brands where, that sounded pretty good. Or I've had to use at a festival at a rental kit. I don't really get that option. No. But generally, I'm like, well, I kind of love my snare head that I use and the toms.
Yeah,
I would never want to just use a different brand.
No, I get
just because it visually it just do my head in.
Yeah. It would look very strange, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well,
but you're right.
No one would care. No one else would care, but I would.
No, but I feel it. I'm with you. I think uniformity across the board is, it's very important.
Yeah.
Got to look good as well as sound good.
Yeah. So, a question for you: are you a drummer yourself? I know you play guitar.
I do play guitar. I am not a drummer. I hold my hands up. I admit I'm not a drummer, which may surprise quite a lot of people, especially given my job. That's basically what I do. I sell drum heads. I advise on drum heads and that kind of thing. But it's something that I've learned over the years. Because I've been in the industry for so long. That it's just by osmosis that I've kind of, I've absorbed all the information that that I need to get, so I can just about get away with talking to a drummer about their kit. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you're really good at it. You've been so helpful to me. I guess I'm one of the. I guess I'm one of your customers, artists.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
That kind of does know, I do know what I want, and I know what everything is meant to do. But for example, I remember I ordered a load of stuff to record the last album with, probably over a year ago. Yeah. So certain things weren't in stock, but you knew exactly what the alternatives would be.
Yes.
Or the closest sounding, feeling heads. And I guess, and I guess you don't need to be a drummer to learn those things. So
not necessarily, no. But I think it certainly helps to have, some kind of fundamental knowledge of music and live music and recorded music. Which is what my background kind of is. Like I said, I've been exposed to it for so long. Despite me just playing one instrument throughout my entire life, I can, I know what goes.
Yeah,
and how to advise. But thank you. Thank you for saying that. It really means something, actually.
Oh, no.
Because I'm basically just blagging my way through my career. Do you know what I mean? I'm just winging it, and then seeing where it lands.
I think we're all winging it to some degree.
We are. I think we all are. Yeah.
I certainly am.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about your background then, because you just mentioned studio work, and obviously, how long have you worked in the distribution industry as well? So
sure.
How did you first get into music? And
as a career or in general?
In general.
In general. Okay. So I was probably about 12 years old when I started really kind of getting into music and really, turning onto it. And my older brother was quite an inspiration to me, or quite influential, because he had an incredible record collection. And I just kind of naturally sort of latched onto him, being the younger brother, being the way I was, susceptible to persuasion and that kind of thing. But he was a big sort of rock and heavy metal fan, sort of in the early 80s. So, and I really, really latched on to Status Quo when I was 11 or 12.
Amazing.
And I thought, I need to. I want to learn. I want to learn how to play guitar. I wanted to be Francis Rossi. That's who I wanted to be when I was 12 years old. And so it was Quo, and then obviously, I'd be branching out and checking other things out as well. So I was getting very, very much into kind of like the new wave of British heavy metal at the time in the early 80s. So I was very into Iron Maiden and Saxon and those kind of bands. And as I got a bit older, actually, I have to say this: there was one particular album which I'd taken a cassette copy from my brother's vinyl collection, and it was a compilation album which came out in 1982, and it was called Heavy. It was just called Heavy, and it had, like I said, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, Lynyrd Skynyrd, lots of other, like Hawkwind, those sorts of bands. Just quite an eclectic compilation. And there was one song on there which stood out quite a lot because it wasn't quite in the same vein as everything else. And it was a song by a band called Rush, and it was quite it was keyboardy, but I thought, I quite like that. Who's this band? Oh, Rush. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Fast forward a few years later, again I came across another tapes compilation. And there was a Rush song on there called "The Spirit of Radio." When I first heard it, that was my awakening. That was my musical awakening. I was like, "Oh my God, who? Oh, it's Rush. I've heard of them. Okay, I'm going to have to go out and buy all their albums now." And I went in hard. Like I was so obsessed, and I think. I honestly think that my actual musical appreciation and also my desire to actually be part of some kind of like musical movement, to be able to get into a band and that kind of thing, really stemmed from getting into Rush and really appreciating how amazing the musicianship was, especially obviously Neil Peart was he's just the master. He was the master. But I knew that at an early age. I thought this guy, he's so worlds apart from any other drummer I've ever heard. And so I think that's where I really gained my kind of musical appreciation from, was listening to them. And of course from getting into Rush, then that kind of like I spread out and explored other prog rock bands. So Marillion, I was very into. Yes, I got into quite largely, and later on, sort of towards the late 80s, I came across. There's another band that I came across by accident, and it was only because I read a review in Kerrang! Magazine, and it was a gig that they had done at the Marquee. In London, so this would have been like 1989, I guess. So I would have been about sort of 17, 18 at this point. And I looked, and I was reading the review, and it was a 5K review, and I looked at them, and there was 3 guys, and they looked really cool. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go out just on the way they look. And from this review, I'm just going to go out and check out their album. And it was a band called King's X.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of those guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did exactly the same to me as Rush did to me a few years earlier. They were like an epiphany. And again, I just went in so hard and got so obsessed with them. And I still am to this day. You know, I think they're so really that, I mean, that's the genesis of my kind of my musical awakening and appreciation. But I didn't actually get into music as a career until sort of 1993. And again, this was such a fluke, the way this happened. So it was like this would be 1992. I was out of work at the time because we were going through a recession in the early 90s, and I didn't have a job. And I thought to myself, well, what do I actually really want to do, you know, as a career? And I thought, I wonder how to get some studio work. I'd like to learn, you know, how to engineer and that kind of thing. And I hadn't got a clue, you know, I didn't really know much about sound recording at all. But because it was the early 90s, you know, there was no such thing as internet or email or anything like that. I managed to find address details of some relatively local studios to where I was living at the time. One of them being a studio called Ridge Farm in Surrey. Now, anybody who kind of knows anything about sort of music will know that Ridge Farm was probably was the foremost residential recording studio during the 70s and 80s. And I knew this myself as well. You know, I thought, okay, you know, Ridge Farm, I've heard of them. So I probably wrote about half a dozen letters, sort of applying for jobs or asking, have you got any jobs going? You know, that kind of thing. The sort of thing you used to do, you know, when you used to go into a music shop or a guitar shop or a drum shop, you know, looking for Saturday work. It was like that kind of vibe. So I wrote a letter off to about, like I say, about 6 different studios, and Ridge Farm were the only ones who replied to me. It was a few months after I'd sent the letter out, but I got this random phone call at the end of 92. So I think it was like November 92, and it was the manager of the studio, a lovely lady called Anne Needham, and she said, "We got your letter." I went, "Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Would you like to come in for an interview? We've actually got an opening for we require a trainee sound engineer, or as they called it, a tape operator at the time." And I thought, yeah, absolutely, yeah, I'm there. So I went for the interview. Again, Dane, I just winged it, you know, because I don't know how to be anybody but myself when I'm in an interview situation. You know, I'll talk to you the same as I talk to pretty much anybody that I meet. And they took a shine to me, obviously, because they offered me the job the week after, and I just couldn't believe my luck. I just thought, oh my God, you know, the stars have aligned here, and so I started working for them in January 1993, 3rd of January 93. These dates you don't tend to forget.
Wow.
Yeah. And because it's a residential studio as well, then I could live there. I got my own room, and I got fed, and I got paid. Yeah, it was wonderful. And in the middle of the Surrey Hills, which, you know, is a beautiful part of the country. I mean, obviously, it's, you know, no comparison to, you know, to Wales, but, you know, for the south of England, southeast of England, you know, it's really quite a beautiful part. So, yeah, it's an old converted Elizabethan barn and house, and it was, you know, I just thought all my Christmases had come at once. So I started working there, started training as an engineer. I was there for about 2.5 years, and I worked with some amazing bands, some wonderful people, producers, engineers. And all the staff at the studio as well were just great people. Yeah. So So my first foray into a music career was there, which it's unheard of, really, for anybody. I think to go from doing nothing in music to working in one of the major studios in the UK and getting to work with all these artists, was just phenomenal.
That is amazing. Well, you're okay to mention any of the artists you work with, or any of the
absolutely.
Any albums specifically?
Yeah. Specifically albums. Okay, so the first band I ever worked with was a band called The Almighty. And I worked with them on 2 of their albums. So it was the first one was Power Tripping, which came out in '93, and the one after that was Crank, which came out, I think it was '94 or '95. So I got to work with them twice, and they're lovely guys, really sweet guys. I mean, I was a bit wary at first because obviously before I started working there, I knew who they were, and I thought they were these like burly, tough Glaswegians, Obviously, Ricky Warwick, he's actually from like Northern Ireland, but
he looks a bit scary, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, they did back then, hair and tattoos and I thought, oh my God, they're going to try and initiate me in some way. They'll probably, give me wedges or what. I thought I was really scared of them to begin with. But they were the sweetest people and so funny. I can't remember a time when we weren't laughing.
Wow.
So they were great. I love them to bits. So I worked with them. I worked with, I'll try and keep it, Paradise Lost as well.
Oh, cool.
Remember them? Yeah, on one of their albums. That was on their Draconian Times album. Again, that was like '94, I think that was. Brilliant. Just astounding. Such great band. And again, great guys. I got to work with Gun as well, if you remember them.
Yeah, of course. I think all these bands are still going.
Well, they are still going. Yeah, absolutely. And they're still going very strongly as well.
Yeah. Just
trying to think who else I kind of work with of note. I almost got to work with Black Sabbath, or what am I trying to say here? Yes, I was actually at the studio. I wasn't working at the time. I was on. I had a bit of time off, but because I was practically living there anyway, I just stayed there. But Black Sabbath came in for a session, and I just found I got on really well with Tony Iommi. He was a really, really lovely guy. Brian May's band as well. So back in the '90s when Brian May went solo, he had his own backing band, and they came in to do a session for an independent artist. But again, I was working with people like Neil Murray, bass player, Cozy Powell. He was drumming for them at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. Cozy. I mean, what a beautiful soul that man was. He was such a lovely guy.
So cool that you got to meet him.
Yeah. So I worked with some pretty top artists.
Gods of rock.
Yeah, Gods of Rock. Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you just reminded me of something. There was somebody else that I'd almost got to work with, but didn't quite pan out. And this came off the back of the session that I was doing with Paradise Lost. One evening, I think it was their A&R guy from the States came over. And he came over with like 2 very large bottles of Jack Daniels, like 2 2-liter bottles of Jack Daniels, which we finished the session for the day, and we plied ourselves a drink, and I got so incredibly drunk. I mean, probably the drunkest I've ever been. But I knew that I had to get up relatively early the next day because there was a client coming in to look around the studio. I thought, right, okay, I should be fine. I'll get to bed and I'll probably be a bit hungover by the time I woke up. Anyway, by the time I woke up the next day, I was still absolutely steaming. I couldn't tell whether I was still drunk or really hungover. But anyway, I managed to drag myself out of bed and clean myself up and make myself look presentable. And I went into the studio to wait for this prospective new client. And I was hanging. And I was so hanging, I had to kind of like lean up against the wall just to prop myself up. And And the client came in, he was talking to me, chatting to me. I was like, oh, yeah, well, this is, it's a Neve VR60 desk, and just going through all the technical stuff and just leaning. I was just looking at him, and this guy was a little bit shorter than me, and I was just looking down at him. And through my blurry eyes, I thought, I know who you are. Who are you? I know you. It was Bruce Dickinson.
What?
And it didn't twig until about halfway through the conversation I was having with him as to who I was talking to, because I was just so out of it. I thought, oh my God, how embarrassing. Anyway, sorry, that's a bit of a sidestep, but that kind of gives you the sort of gives you an idea of the sort of thing that I used to get up to. Thankfully, I was very conscientious about my job, and I very, very rarely drank while I was there, even though that was the thing to do, especially at long sessions during the night, that kind of thing. Beers come out, but no, I tried to be as professional as I possibly could, and so in fact, I think I was probably teetotal at the time, so I was drinking a lot of coffee.
Oh, right, okay.
But really, just to kind of keep myself awake.
Yeah, well, night sessions, you have to take something. You
do indeed. And I mean, to be honest with you, Dane, I think that was part and parcel of me for kind of giving it up after 2.5 years, because I got to a point where, I really enjoyed doing the work, but the hours were brutal, and I, not seeing daylight for days on end was kind of was getting to me.
Yes.
So I decided to, hand my notice in and just go for try and get a normal job, what I call a normal job. And so I ended up going to work in a local guitar store where I lived. And it's a shop that I've been going to for years. I've been a customer, and fortuitously they had a vacancy, and they actually asked me if I wanted to come and work for them, which I did. So that was me set for the next sort of 3 years or so, I guess. I was working there. And then a colleague of mine who I was working with at the shop, he had moved on, and he had gone to work for a distributor in London called Arbiters, who were at the time the distributor for Fender guitars, as well as many other brands. They were distributing Remo at the time as well, and I think it was either, I can't remember if it was Paiste or Sabian, but anyway. So my colleague, he went off to work, and then he contacted me a couple of months after, and he said, they're looking for people. Would you be interested? And I thought, yeah. I don't particularly want to, work in a guitar shop for the rest of my days. And I thought, the money was a lot better as well. So I went for an interview, got an interview, went for the interview, got the job. And I was working as, I was customer services. So I was office based, and I did customer services for JBL, and AKG. Who else? SKB. Lots of acronyms here. And who else? Oh, DBX as well. So I was in the sort of the pro audio customer services side of things, and it was a good job, but it was hard. It was difficult. They were, especially because of the division I was working in was all about professional installations in clubs and venues and all that kind of thing. It was really, everything had to be right. Do you know what I mean? No margin for error at all. Otherwise, you send the wrong thing and that's it. They have to shut down the installation. But anyway, so I was there for a couple of years, and actually, I would possibly not still be working there, but I would have worked there probably a bit longer, and if I hadn't been contacted by a guy called Tom Robinson, who was a rep. He used to be a rep for Yamaha and Zildjian, so I knew him from my shop days, from working in the shop. But he had moved on, and he joined a very unknown Belgian company called EMD, and he contacted me because I was recommended to well, I was recommended because they were looking for somebody to work in their sales office because it was just growing. The business was growing, and they just needed to get more people in. So I got a phone call from him, from Tom, and asked me if I'd be interested in the job, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, definitely. You know, I was ready, you know, to try something different. So there you go. That was 23 years ago. I'm still working for the company.
Wow.
I mean, I'm still, you know, that the time has just flown.
Yeah.
It really has. But so much has happened in the meantime. But it doesn't feel, you know, it felt like, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago I joined the company. But,
wow,
you know, it's just.
Must be something special there for you to felt that you wanted to leave the other positions in the other jobs after a few years.
Yeah, well, yes, well, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons for me departing Arbiters, I was living in Surrey, and they were based in North London. So the commute was a bit, you know, could be a long commute.
Yeah,
every day, and an EMD had an office set up, like literally like 5 miles away from where I was living at the time. So that was quite that was part of the draw, but also the brands that they were representing at the time. You know, I was quite keen on getting on board with them as well.
Okay.
So there was that they were distributors for a Canadian guitar maker called Godin. Time, who did. So you had Godin guitars, but also affiliated with things like Seagull guitars, Simon and Patrick, Art and Lutherie, and I loved their products anyway. You know, I thought they were stunning. I thought, yeah, I'd really like to work for these people. And EMD is a company as well. Just the loveliest people to work for. Really nice, very, very laid back. You know, they're Belgian,
right?
Very laid back people. you know, so it kind of rubs off. And it's still very much the same sort of similar kind of vibe today. You know, even though the company has grown exponentially over the past 20 odd years. I mean, you know, they started off, you know, relatively small and catering for most of sort of Western Europe. They're now a global company. We have offices out in America, in Nashville, so warehousing and distribution out there, and across the world we have sub distributors as well, who are, you know, official Stagg agents, if you like.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere. It's all over the place, and it's just a lovely success story for a, you know, a small family-run company in Brussels to all, you know, to where they are today is brilliant.
That is. I was going to say that's quite unique, I think, for a distribution company, because to be worldwide, I don't know many others that are.
Well, Roland, Yamaha. You know, they're global, aren't they? But then again, Yamaha and Roland, they're manufacturers, aren't they?
That's what I mean.
But they self-distribute. But yes, but an independent distributor, you'd be right. Yeah, we do have quite a unique place in the market, I believe.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm sure my boss will probably tell me different. You know, if he weren't, once he sees this interview, say, you said a lot of things wrong, Phil.
He'll be fine. It's all good.
He'll be all right.
Let's keep him happy then. Let's talk about some of the brands you work with, or, you know, what do they? I've written a few down here. We got Stagg, Remo, Tokai, which was interesting.
That's
cool brand.
Yeah, Tokai. We gained the distribution for Tokai 3 years ago. In fact, it was during the first lockdown that we were awarded the distribution of it from Japan. Now it's something that Tokai has been a brand that we've been kind of eyeing up for years, and been kind of just on the outskirts of like grabbing it, you know. And an opportunity came up where our friends out in Japan said, right, okay, we're ready to give it to you. Do you want it? Yes, please. Thank you very much. We will have it with knobs on. Thank you. And it's been incredibly successful, as you would imagine. I mean, it's, you know, I can't say it's a brand that sells itself, but it's you know, the name is synonymous with quality. You know, I mean, I don't know any guitar player who's ever said, "Oh, Tokai they're rubbish."
No,
they're not. Most of them say, "Tokai, yeah. Oh, I've got one of the Les Pauls.
I was going to say
they're so much better than the Gibson I've got." You know, that's the mantra. That's what I hear a lot about, is saying that they're copies, which they are effectively. You know, of classic designs. The build quality and the sound is, you know, since the 80s has just been just incredible.
Top notch. Yeah.
And half the price.
One of my dad's favorite guitars is a Tokai Les Paul.
Is it really?
From the 80s, yeah.
Oh my God, really? Oh, that's amazing.
And we still use it now with the Bastard Sons.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Oh,
yeah. He takes it on tour. It's kind of, I'm not sure if it's had a pickup change at some point, but it sounds so beefy compared to everything else. It's always because sometimes he'll take 3 or 4 on tour, and I'm like, I always prefer the sound of that one. But
sound of the Tokai of his Gibsons, yeah.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. I don't think he tours with any Gibsons at the moment. You know, he owns a few.
Yeah,
but I guess because they're a bit more valuable, maybe he doesn't like touring with them so much. But
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I'm kind of in the same camp as your dad. That, you know, I wouldn't want to spend 3 or 4 grand on a guitar and then take it out because I'd be too conscious of it being nicked or you know, or damaged. Balance. You know, I've always been a champion of the cheaper end of guitars. I mean, I don't own a guitar that's worth more than 400 quid.
Wow,
you know?
okay.
and that's retail.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple of old, you know, Squires and sort of Mexican Fenders and that kind of thing.
Nice.
They're amazing. And you know, again, faultless. But yeah, I wouldn't be wanting to take an expensive guitar out just to risk it. Do you know what I mean? Nice to have, nice investment, maybe. You know.
Yeah.
But no, I've never really been one for splashing the cash on gear.
I'm in between. Because I've owned some really top end gear, but I've also toured with like kind of mid-level gear, and it's like it can sound just as good, especially with the drums.
Yes,
in a live situation, sometimes, you know, what's the difference? And I never used to like touring with. I had a few drum kits which I'd spent a lot of money on, and I'm like, I don't really want to take these on tour. I don't want to share them with other drummers.
No.
So
can I use your kit? No.
Yeah. So they usually just sit in my garage or in storage. I'm like, what's the point of me owning these? But I do tour with like a high-end German kit at the moment, which after the first tour, it's got scratches and dents in it. But like, at least I kind of bought it knowing, right, this is going to be the touring kit. It wasn't like stupid money, but it was a high-end German Sona kit.
Oh, nice.
But not the high, because I haven't got that kind of money.
No, but something that's going to be roadworthy and
reliable and
exactly.
Part of the current range, because I felt like the kit I was playing at the time was one of the Asian made kits, and like they didn't make them anymore. And I just thought, it's kind of nice to represent the current range of stuff, and that's good for the company as well, because I'm actually, if someone goes, that kit sounds great, I want to buy one, they can.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but it's great. But I know what you mean, and likewise, I've had so many compliments about the mid-range one I used to play before, and I still use that a lot for like rehearsals, and I've got like a small kit in my shed, which is that kind of mid-range kit, and it sounds awesome.
Fantastic.
But yeah, great. So there's a few other brands I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Drum wise, because there's more drummers that listen to this, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Nativo percussion.
Nativo.
Oh,
yes.
Nativo.
Nativo. Well, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I may be.
You're probably correct.
Maybe corrected. Now, this is a recent acquisition of ours. Oh God, I've my mind's gone blank in terms of where they're from. I know that they're definitely that they're made in either Central or South America. I think it might be Ecuador.
That's the vibe I got. That's the vibe I got. I had a quick look.
Yes, indeed. We've only recently procured this brand. I've yet to see it in the flesh myself.
Okay.
However, reports we're getting from dealers who have taken on the dealership are saying that they're just amazing quality. And I mean, mate, you probably noticed this over the course of the past sort of 10 years or so, is that cajon sales have just gone sort of through the roof.
Absolutely,
because, and I think that probably has a lot to do with, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I'm just going on my own personal experience, is, that it's an ideal, it's a kit in a box, basically. Very portable, you can take it anywhere. So anybody going to say, like, doing an open mic or busking or something like that, it's an easy thing to transport. And it was phenomenal, really. When cajons became vastly popular, all of a sudden everybody seemed to be doing them. Seemed to be making them. Even ourselves. I mean, Stagg, we do our own range of cajons, very successful. But yes, the Nativo is a, like I say, it's a recent acquisition for us, and so far so good. They're being really well received. I mean, they're funky as hell looking.
They look beautiful.
I think they look amazing. Don't they?
They're like stunning.
The sort of book matched fronts. It just looks amazing. I think they look lovely. But from what I hear, like I said, I haven't seen or heard one in the flesh, but feedback so far has been incredibly positive. So we're very
good. Right, I'll look into those more because I do own a cajon.
Yeah.
Again, it's a Sona one.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird. It doesn't have a wire in it. It's got like bamboo strips, and it's
oh right, yeah.
But it never, like, I don't like dissing the product because I think it's still unique in its own way. It doesn't quite have the crack like a cajon with a wire does. Someone has borrowed it from me, and I don't know who, and I don't know where it is right now. So I might be in the market to get a replacement.
Okay, well, hit me up, mate.
Yeah,
if you want to try anything, I'm more than happy to send it to you to try out. Yeah, absolutely, cool, man. No problem. Of course. Yeah, because the one thing I have noticed being a working drummer, is especially pubs and clubs and small venues, they literally don't even want a band anymore. They're just looking for duos and singers. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I can.
And if you're lucky, they might book a trio with a cajon. So like a lot of drummers that used to be in bands, the cover, especially in the cover circuit, are now out of a gig or are doing less gigs than they could before because most of the clubs and pubs don't want a drummer, which is I understand it. Sure.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
it sucks. It really sucks. It sucks because I remember I was playing in like a covers trio, going back a few years, and the trio gig started fizzling out, and the duo gig started becoming more common. Yeah. And then eventually it became no trio gigs, and it was just duo gigs because there was more money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's where these venues are thinking, like, how can we save money? By just getting a duo or solo artists in with, and we'll just pay them 50 quid and.
Well, or more than that sometimes.
Probably a bit more than that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's my experience, and it as I'm sure lots of other drummers might be in the same boat where they get off, or their cover band gets off a gig, and then they're like, well, we can only do an acoustic duo, so then they're missing out on a gig that weekend.
Sure.
because the singer or the guitarist that books the gigs goes, well, I want to do it. I want money.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'm sure I'm not the only person that's been in that situation, but anyway, yeah, get a cajon if you're a drummer. Just get one, keep it in your I know if you've got a garage or something.
Yeah,
or
keep it handy. It will come in handy.
It will, yeah, certainly. Don't let anyone borrow it off you.
No, that's right.
I don't know who's got it. I'll have to. If anyone's listened to this, if you've got my cajon, give it back.
Please contact Dane Campbell at
drumforthesong.com.
Drumforthesong.com.
Yeah. The other talking about so drum dots. The other thing, kind of like dampening pads.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So like like moon gel, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
It's again, just a nice little accessory to have.
Essential, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's a good little brand.
Yeah. Well, check. There's loads of other ones. I don't want to talk about everything because we'll be here all day. But well, it's quite a large collection of brands that you do.
We do have quite a lot of brands. I mean, we're EMD as a global distributor has a hell of a lot more brands than you can actually see yourself because we're limited to what we can distribute in the UK, but in Europe it's a different story altogether. So, for instance, we've got in Europe, we do Seiko, we do Crafter guitars. There's quite a lot of stuff that we can't do in the UK because other distributors are doing it.
Yeah.
But no, I think we've got enough to be getting on with. For our little market. That's
one thing I was going to bring up. So, is you work for EMD UK? Is your warehouse still in Belgium?
It is. It is indeed. Yes, absolutely. And it's up until when was it? When did Brexit happen? 2021.
That was my next question.
That's going to be your next question.
How is it all being affected by Brexit?
How do we get around it? Well, we found a solution, and it's working incredibly well because I know that that one of the biggest kind of obstacles for anybody or any distributor wanting to import into the UK is that you're going to have to go through customs and import duties and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. Which thankfully we didn't have to. We struck a deal with our freight forwarders, and so all sort of import duties, etc., that kind of thing is dealt with from the Belgian end, which means that all of our customers in the UK, they'll only get a goods invoice and that's it. They won't. They won't get stung by HMRC for,
import
VAT and import duties and that kind of thing. So, but it did take a little while for that to. Probably took about 3 months after Brexit kind of clicked over in 21. It did take us a while to kind of get the wheels greased. There were some, false starts here and there, and it was difficult to navigate for the first three or 4 months of 2021. But then all of a sudden, it just it just happened, and it's working very well. And even transit times as well between Belgium and here are quite normal, like 3 or 4 days to get something delivered, which is, and especially, these things still have to go through customs, obviously, but the transit times did speed up after we got through that initial blockage, so to speak. So we're faring very well, and that was one of the things that we feared the most.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
When we felt, when the vote came through, we thought, oh God, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to do this? We even talked about, well, maybe we should have our own warehouse in the UK. Actually, it's something we're still talking about now. It's not off the table. Yeah. I think we're getting to a point where it probably will happen, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, but that'll be a challenge for the company to set up a UK distribution.
Yeah.
Because we'll basically, it'd be like starting up a completely new company, I think,
Yeah, I can see like benefits to that in terms of, like you said, 3 to 4 days is actually pretty quick to come from Belgium, but for some customers and maybe an artist, it's not quick enough.
It's not. No, you're absolutely
Sometimes,
right. Yeah,
if it's an emergency situation or whatever,
they need next day stuff. Now then, when it comes to things like, especially for artists, okay, with Remo artists, they whenever they come to me, I can either sell, or supply heads directly to them from Belgium, and I explain to them, look, you can have them in 3 to 4 working days. I say, oh no, I need them quicker than that. I'm going into a session tomorrow. I really need, I've forgotten to buy my coat ambassadors. Say, okay, well that's no problem, because we have Remo artist centres in the UK who are specifically there to cater for that kind of need. So we've got John Henry's in North London, legendary. Rehearsal spaces, backline. Yeah. So they are an official UK Remo artist centre. So that their stock holding of Remo heads is incredibly good.
Right.
So in the event of any signed artist needing heads quickly, I always say, right, John Henry's, if you're in sort of in London, or if you're up north, Tour Supply in Manchester, they do the same. They do the same for us, and they're invaluable. Without those guys, London Drum Company as well, which they're in South London, another artist centre. They're invaluable to us as from an artist relations perspective. We couldn't do it without them.
No.
or it'd be sluggish without them.
Yeah.
So,
great. So can they send stuff out as well? Or do they need cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't need to go in. You can just phone up and say, I need this, and this. Need it there by tomorrow. Yeah, no problem. It's literally that easy.
Wow. I'm pretty organized when it comes to when I order stuff, but that's good to know just in case. Obviously the gear is reliable anyway. So I don't often get emergencies on tour. I've always got a box of spares.
Yeah. I
always take spares,
but there's always going to be a situation with somebody who will need something quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
For whatever reason, it doesn't matter what reason it is. It's like, if you need it, then we can get it there for you.
Excellent stuff. Well, that's fantastic. You can't beat that service, I must say. Apologies for interrupting this episode of Drum for the Song. I really hope you're enjoying it so far. I just wanted to take a few moments to tell you about my Patreon page. This is a place where you can support the podcast in exchange for some bonus content. You can head over to patreon.com/drum for the song. There are 3 tiers available at the moment. One is £3 a month, one is £5 a month, and the other one is £10 a month. Each tier grants you access to exclusive benefits, which include bonus episodes, early access to the main episodes, private Facebook group membership, merch discounts, discount on Motorhead beer, as well as a monthly competition to win Motorhead beer, access to Skype chats with me, asking my guests questions, occasional free gifts like drumsticks, free tickets to Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons shows, and your name in the episode description. If you regularly enjoy the podcast and think you would enjoy those benefits too, please consider signing up. If you didn't already know, I do everything for this podcast all by myself. So I do all the contacting, all the research, all the interviews, all the audio editing, all the video editing, all the artwork, all the uploading. I write all the descriptions, I build the website, everything is just me. So essentially the money from the subscriptions helps me keep a bit of time free during my weeks so I can continue making the podcast for you guys. So again, that's patreon.com/drum for the song. Check it out and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Drum for the Song podcast.
I know one thing that always comes up, like a topic. Yes. If a drummer's in a band, maybe they started touring, and they want to get an endorsement with any brand, really, not necessarily Remo. But what do you look for? What should they be doing to kind of before they apply? Perhaps what
before they apply? I think. I mean, these days especially, it's all about social media exposure, isn't it? And how many followers you have and that kind of thing. I mean, that's the sort of thing we do look at that, but we don't take that as it, being the final thing.
Yeah,
I think there's no hard and fast kind of criteria as such. And what I've found myself is that any kind of new artist applicant I will receive has kind of already established themselves in a sense, and they haven't. So they've waited until they've got to a certain point in their journey, in their career, where they've got X amount of exposure, that they're like a known artist or group or whatever, to a demographic, that they'll approach for endorsements or support. I very, very rarely get anybody coming to me just asking for free stuff.
No, I don't know.
It used to happen, and it has happened, and we have to be very polite and say, well, so we just can't give it away.
No.
But a lot of, most, I'm going to say all of my artists are very gracious and are always more than willing to pay. They'll get a preferential rate, obviously, because they're artists, which they're always very thankful for.
Yeah.
But obviously, they're especially with Remo endorsees, that the spectrum is so wide.
Yeah.
So you've got your up and comings to your
the biggest drummers in the world.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like I say, there isn't really any sort of hard and fast rules, and like I was saying, that we get approached mainly by artists that are already in the system. I can't think of a better word to put.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm not going to get a drummer who's been in a covers band for a couple of years and playing down a local pub asking for an endorsement. That just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen at all.
Well, I find odd. I've seen drummers like that.
Yeah.
Get endorsements with like random stick companies and cymbal companies, and I'm like, you literally just play in a covers band. And I don't understand how that works, but
no, neither do I.
I keep my mouth shut and say, good for you, great,
We obviously vet them. We don't, we don't just throw stuff out or supply people willy nilly. They have to. They have some clout behind them. That's probably,
Yeah, you've got it. And what is important is obviously retailers.
Yes,
you can't give every musician an artist deal because they're in a band.
That's right. Right.
And without the retailers, obviously, everyone would be screwed.
Oh, totally.
So that's the other thing. I was coming from the retail background that I did when I was in Cranes.
Of course, you were in Cranes, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to order stuff from you back then.
You did.
And Cranes is no more. I know. Unfortunately, it saw its fate after I left. So
that was a shame because Cranes have been around for years. Were well established in Cardiff, wasn't it?
Cardiff, yeah.
Yeah, a big player within the industry, but it has. But the industry has suffered. Retailers really suffered.
Yeah,
really ever since sort of 2008. With the first kind of the credit crunch crash, and that's kind of where we saw it kind of start to dip down. But it's I think it is kind of leveling off. It has leveled off. There have been some casualties, definitely, but there have been some really good success stories as well from it all. It's not all doom and gloom out there.
That's good to know. So I'm aware there's probably a few other shops that have unfortunately closed as well. I was going to say, have you noticed anything since Brexit negatively within the maybe more of a high street retailer rather than the big online ones?
Yeah. I mean, even since Brexit, there are big internet companies out there that are still very much, squeezing the prices down. And of course, that's something that we have absolutely no control over. We can't. It's just
you can't.
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to mention any names.
No, I don't want you to. No.
But there are the big internet players who are still very much I guess for want of a better phrase, a threat to the high street. Because they sell their stuff so low, they can get it to you next day. It's incredibly detrimental to the high street, especially drum retailers, especially where the thing is, you don't get an experience when you purchase something online, do you? I mean, for me to go into a guitar shop is just like, it's one of the most wonderful things. It's an experience.
Yeah,
but you don't get that with buying something from, them guys. You can, and you never know what you're going to get. And that's the thing. That's the other thing about buying instruments, especially online. Accessories, not so much, obviously, but if you're going to want to purchase something, rather large, and you decide to buy it online, then on your head be it, because it could end up damaged in transit or something wrong with it, and then you got all the hassle of trying to get it back, get it returned, and it's but when you go into a store, you don't get that at all, and I think a lot of people, a lot of players are more than happy to pay just that little bit extra to get that service and have that experience and talk to a human being about it as well,
not
face to
a
face,
chat.
have a proper chat conversation with people. That's what the high street is all about. And it should still be.
It's important in the drum world, I think, the sense of community that the drum shops offer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And especially in where I'm from, there's a couple of shops. There's the drum depot. They put on the clinics and things like that. There's drummers on, and there's another one in Bridgend called Cariad.
So Cariad drums, yeah.
So they're all really great shops. So I think I'm quite lucky to have. I don't live that close to them, but I could easily drive to either of them within 40 minutes.
Oh, that's all right, isn't it?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Drum Depot and Drummers, and I mean, they're so well established, and they've got there's some great kit. they're wonderful places.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
going in there, they might offer you a cup of tea if you're lucky.
They do, and biscuits and all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. It is amazing, honestly, and hopefully people will continue to support these shops.
I hope so, and I do believe they will. I know that we've had some rather sort of major casualties over the past few years. Foots, especially Foots Drums, was like that was the biggest kick in the gut. It really was, because they've been there for like 100 years.
Wow. Yeah, that is sad. Yeah.
And the reason they had to shut their doors was, it was not so much to do with from a sales perspective, but it was because the rents were so high, because they're based in central London. Rents and rates were just going up and up and up, and they just couldn't afford to keep the doors open anymore, which is such a shame.
Yeah,
because they were You kind of, I mean, you wouldn't believe this, but you would, if you're in central London, you'd struggle to find a drum shop. You've got Drum Shack, which are they're south of the river. They're in Battersea, so they're like probably one of the last remaining central London shops. I think you got PMT as well, who've got a relatively good sort of drum department, and they're based in sort of on the outskirts of East London.
Yeah,
or going to East Central London. But that's it. You've got Wembley Drum Centre, up in the northwest of London. But that's it. There's not enough. There doesn't seem to be anybody in Central London anymore, which is especially in the West End, where you've got all the theatres and you've got the theatre bands, and you'd think there'd be someone there, but there just isn't. So, I mean, that's a shame, a real shame. When Foots went, which was relatively recently, like 6 months ago, probably not even that. Oh my God,
I was familiar with the name, but it's not somewhere I'd ever been, so I guess I didn't realize the history of them.
It was so well established. Nick Mason from Pink Floyd was invested in the store for a good sort of 10 years or so. So there was quite a draw, knowing he was on board and stuff. So, no, it just got too much for them, which is such a shame.
Big shame.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But there we are.
Yeah, there we are. Just, if you need that, little item, or you just fancy a browse, go into your local store.
Please.
You'll probably be inspired, and hopefully you'll walk away with something you don't need, and then you'll be supporting the shop, or just top up your Remo head stock.
Yeah, just nip in, get a set of heads, or pick up some sticks.
Yeah, just little things like that. It all helps,
It does indeed.
Small purchases.
It really does, and keeps people in a job as well. Just keeps them gainfully employed, and it's just better to go into a shop and buy something and talk to a human being about it.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other part of I guess it's not a common regular part of the job but the only time we've ever met in person was at the UK drum show.
It was, yes.
I can't remember what year. And I went with Gordon from Raging Speedon, who was
absolutely
one of my other episodes, one of the earlier episodes, actually. We came up together because we live in the same town. We probably talked about all this. But what was involved in organising that? Did you have much to do with that, or did you just show up? Or did you
No, I basically showed up.
Okay, fair enough.
But no, I have been involved in the organisation of shows before, and it's I mean, in terms of the technicalities of it, as far as I'm involved, I'm responsible for getting all the stock there on time. That's my thing. That's another part of my job. Is I'm essentially I do custom services for the company. So while I don the artist relations hat for Remo and Stagg Cymbals and whatnot, and my other hat is very much kind of grassroots and dealing with the day-to-day business of the company, so it's like, processing dealer orders and queries and that kind of thing, and also a bit of like social media content and answering questions from the general public. Sorry, I'm giving you a politician's answer here, but by evading the original question. It's something that I'm very fully aware that I do. But in terms of organisations for shows, we actually have a team of people out in Belgium who design the stand. Have like what's that program thing? Like a CAD computerized, design things. So they design the stand for us and know exactly what's going to go where and that kind of thing. And my responsibility is just to order all the stuff up.
Okay.
get the warehouse to pick it all and put it on pallets, and then and I'll tell them where and when to ship it to, and that's kind of it. And obviously, the shows that I attend get heavily involved in pretty much all of it, really. So from building it up to being incredibly knackered. Throughout the whole thing, the noise and the dirt but it's all part of it. It's all part of the show experience, and then tearing it down at the end of the show, which is like, by the end of it, you feel like you've run a marathon.
No, I bet. I just had one. I was only there for an afternoon, and I was knackered, so I can't imagine what the people working there for the whole weekend must have felt.
It's challenging, especially for the guys that work for us, that come along to the show. So the reps, the reps out on the road, we're all in the same kind of age bracket now. So the average age of an EMD UK employee is I think like 45. We're all in our 50s now. But when we first started out working together, we were all sort of, in our sort of early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and we're a young, dynamic team, But now we've stayed the distance, but we're just that bit older. But we've still, we're still out there and doing what we do, and going to the shows and getting stuck into it all, and we love it. We really do enjoy it.
I was going to say, then, some of those shows where they have, I guess, performances and clinics and stuff with artists, do you get involved with the Remo artist side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's always going to be, whoever's performing at these, who do the master classes or clinics, 9 times out of 10, at least half of them will be Remo endorsed. So our responsibility, as far as we go, is to just make sure that they've got the heads that they need for their kit.
Yeah.
We just literally just hand the heads over to them when they'll come to the stand and say, "Oh yeah, I'm such and such for so and so who's doing a clinic. Have you got his heads? Yeah, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Cool. It's kind of like that.
Pretty easy.
But in terms of the whole, actually sort of getting involved with the clinics themselves, it's I haven't done it myself, but there's a guy called Gary Mann, who was the European, I suppose, sales director and artist relations for the UK and Europe. I think I've already said European, haven't I? For about 30 years for Remo. He he's the face and the name for Remo in the UK for many, many years. Now, Gary retired three years ago, although he still kind of keeps his hand in here and there. I spoke to him yesterday, actually.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he's still doing bits and pieces, but he has officially retired and kind of handed over the baton to me as well, a guitar player who is the face and artist relations for a drum company. But Gary would be very, very involved in that kind of thing, with shows, and he'd very active within that. But I haven't actually really had a chance to do that yet, purely because, like I say, he retired 3 years ago. Literally 1 week before the first lockdown. He timed that perfectly. And of course, for the next 2 years, nothing happened, so there were no shows. But I think there is one, it's at the end of September this year, isn't it?
It's September the 30th, October the 1st in Liverpool.
That's right. Exactly that. So yeah, it's Gary won't be there, but us as a company will be there, and we'll be showing our wares, so to speak, and giving full support to all the players in the clinics.
Cool. Well, that should be a fun weekend. I'm pretty sure I'm on tour, so I don't think I can come. But for anyone any drummers, a UK drum show in Liverpool. I can't remember the venue, but go check that out. It's always great to see loads of new gear, old gear, great players. I think the ticket price is relatively very good deal, really, for what you get. I think so. I think it's a good for any drum nerds, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good day out for the drum nerds.
Yeah. Bring it earplugs.
Bring it. Yeah. Ear defenders.
Yeah.
Leave the missus at home.
Yeah. Unless she loves
drums, of course.
Yeah. Or of course, unless you are a girl yourself.
Exactly. Which,
there's
lots of. Yeah. I mean, the female drumming community is huge.
Yeah.
And there are some stunning players out there. Absolutely, just top notch, top draw.
It's fantastic. And I need to I've had a few guests on my show, but I do need to get some more women and girls on.
Some ladies, yeah.
Ladies.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Different ages, I got it and unfortunately, within one of those industries where it's always been a bit more male dominated.
Yes,
mostly,
it has. Mostly. Yeah. Okay, we'll call a spade here. It has been for many, many years. But I would say probably in the last, 10 years, there's been a real upsurge in female players.
Yeah, it's great.
Which is and they're they're fantastic. They could beat the crap out of the guys. Absolutely no problem. I mean, when you think back to like classic female players, so who can you think of? Like Sheila E, one of them. That's it. I'm thinking.
Karen Carpenter.
Karen Carpenter was a drummer. Yes, indeed. She was amazing.
Yeah.
Who else? Was it Cindy Blackman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are like the legendary female drummers.
These are the legendary female drummers. And of course now you've got
loads. Well,
so many.
My Instagram feed is full of female drummers.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's it's great. And one thing I've noticed, this like you mentioned social media now. You can make a career from playing drums on social media now. You don't have to be in a band, and you can get sponsorships and all this stuff. My social media profile is tiny compared to some people, and it's amazing. But there's fantastic players. I'm like wowed every day, and some like really young ones, literally children. And they're like better than me.
Well, I think the reason for that, I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at the internet and you see all these child prodigies who are just like any instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, guitarists. You're getting these 5-6-year-old kids who are playing Steve Vai. And you think, how is this happening? In my day, I had to go to a music shop, buy a tab book, try and learn it the old way. Whereas I think the internet's influence on young players these days has been phenomenal. I mean, it's just opened up a whole new, YouTube especially.
Free stuff.
Exactly, free stuff, and just so much more accessible to anybody these days who wants to learn anything, any instrument. They've just got the world at their fingertips, and it's no surprise that you're getting these young kids who are virtuoso at such an early stage. It makes you think, well, it's incredible what you're doing. It's amazing, but what are you going to do next? As in how much better are you going to get?
Yeah,
some of these kids that are playing could wipe the floor with me. And I'm not a particularly great player. I mean, I can hold my own in a situation, but no, I just couldn't. I just couldn't do what these kids are doing now.
No, it's the same with me, and sometimes it's inspiring, isn't it? And
It is, yeah.
But sometimes it's kind of like, why do I bother?
Yeah. I'll give up. I think I'll just give up now.
Yeah, I'll just completely quit.
Yeah.
I'll
do
something else.
I try to take the very inspiring route rather than the grumpy old git route.
Yeah, that's the best way, really.
I think so.
But that's really interesting. I got two questions actually from one of my Patreons.
Excellent.
I've got like a Patreon page that people can support the podcast and all that, because I do it all myself. It's hard work.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't pay anything. Well,
no.
for anyone interested on YouTube, they monetized my channel over a year ago. I get about £5 a month now on adverts from adverts.
Well, that's all right.
An entire £5.
There you go. That's like, a 4 pint of milk and a loaf of bread.
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing, or maybe half a pack of nappies. Dane.
Yes.
Have to remember that. Eh?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So anything helps. Add to the nappy fund. Sign up to the Patreon. But what David Rudd is the fine gentleman that has some questions for you.
Yes, of course. Wow, I have questions. That's amazing.
Yeah. So he says, as I've played Stagg cymbals in the past and loved their live sound, I'd be interested to know where they're made and whether there are plans for higher end products. Interesting.
Well, no, that's a good question. So that's a two-barreled question. So first of all the Stagg cymbals are made in China,
right?
And they're all made in the traditional way, and every single Stagg cymbal, with the exception of the ones that are like the starter ones, which are the pressed cymbals, every single Stagg cymbal from a particular range upwards are all hand finished and hand hammered. As far as I know, I don't think there are any plans to do anything higher end, because I'm going to go out on a limb here, and because I don't think that's really what Stagg's ethos is about. I don't think that we're, especially with the cymbals, we're not trying to corner or. Not trying to corner anything, but we're not. I don't think it'll be in our best interest to go into the higher end of quality and manufacturing. One of the things that was so, I think, unique about our cymbals initially, and still stands today, is that it is their affordability, but no compromise on quality. That I think that's the thing that really kind of stood out with our product. When I was looking into this a bit earlier on, I was thinking, God, how long have we been doing cymbals now? We launched them in 2002,
right?
And it was only, I think we only started off with a couple of series. I think it was the single hammered and the double hammered series that we started off with. And when we first introduced them, we kind of pitched them at the kind of mid-priced range, and nobody really kind of took to them. It was just another cymbal company, and no one was really kind of taking that much interest in them initially, until we discovered we could actually drop the price on these quite considerably, and we'll just see what happens. And so we did that. And all of a sudden, it just went stratospheric. Literally, it was like people were going, we're going into shops, trying the cymbals out, thinking, wow, these are great. Who's this? Stagg? Never heard of them. How much? Oh my God, I could buy 3 of these and pay the same for 1 Zildjian K or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's where it started. That's where the cymbal story really kind of started, and it wasn't until we began getting interest from artists. I mean, like I said, you were probably one of the first in a handful. So there was yourself, that band you were in, was it called Straight Lines?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
right,
that's
that's right,
it.
yeah.
That's the yeah, that's right. I remember when you contacted me initially, and so especially when I found out that you were Phil Campbell's son, I was like, wow, that's really cool.
I hope it was the band's quality was the main reason.
It was. Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. It wasn't until after I found out, that your dad was Phil Campbell. There was yourself. There was Gordon from Raging Speedhorn. Jamie Oliver, not the chef. Jamie Oliver, the drummer.
UK Subs, was he
UK
in?
Subs, yeah, punk drummer. He got on board really quickly, and he's still very much a champion.
Oh, great.
Of the Cymbals. In fact, I'm sorting some higher or some loan Cymbals when he's going out to America to tour with his new band Ultra Bomb.
Oh, cool.
In May, I think it is, and he's saying, "Can you sort me out with some Cymbals when I'm out there?" So yeah, absolutely no problem, mate. So we've got him. Who else have we had?
I remember. I'm assuming he still uses them. Carl Richards. I don't know.
Carl. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Carl. Yeah, I speak to him probably. I don't speak to him as much as I used to, but like maybe once a year he'll drop me a line. But yeah, Carl is still very much an ambassador for us. Who else? Let's see. There was. I'll tell you who came to us initially. And that was Matt Donnelly from Don Broco.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. Literally just before they became massive,
Yeah.
So he was with us for about 2 or 3 years, I think.
Nice.
He endorsed our stuff. So yeah.
I wonder if I had anything to do with that, because because I was playing. We did quite a few shows with them.
Yeah.
Before they kind of went massive, and I would have been playing the Stags at the time.
Yes.
I wonder whether I can't specifically remember having the conversation, but maybe
I'll tell you what, Dane, it may well have been because a lot of the time, a lot of the inquiries that we get from artists are generally from by word of mouth.
Yeah.
Or by drummers who know other drummers who use them, or have gone to see a band and they go up to the drummer after the show and they say, what are you using? Sound amazing. I was, the Stagg Cymbals. What? Oh my God, they sound amazing. Yeah. And that's how it's gone.
Yeah.
We've not really been known for like heavily marketing the product at all. It's all really been word of mouth.
Yeah,
and it continues to be so.
I think they're quite unique sounding. As in they're not like, especially the ones I have tried. I tried a few different ranges back in the day. Yeah. I don't know if you still make. I know you still do the Senzas, I think.
Yes, we do. Yes,
I did. I used the Myras, the Furias.
Yeah.
But they were all unique. They weren't copying any. They weren't copying like any of the models that the main kind of brands were using. Not
trying to be anything else.
No, they were their own thing.
That's very true. It's funny you mentioning about the Furias and the Myras. That I mean, those two series were that they should have been the flagships of the brand. Of the cymbal ranges, because we did so well with those in the sense that we had so many, especially rock and punk drummers, really gravitated towards them.
Yeah.
But I don't know whose decision it was to discontinue them.
Bizarre.
Probably, yeah. It was questionable because if I get asked for anything more than anything else is, have you still got some Furies or Myras in stock? That's what I get asked the most.
Oh, wow.
We don't. Sadly, we don't. However, the Sensor range, the Genghis series as well. I think that the idea is that, at the time, we probably had about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 different, probably about 10 different series of cymbals, and I think it was getting a bit confusing to people. And our product manager, a guy called Eric Tang, who sadly is no longer with the company. He left last week, but he was with us for about 10 years, probably a little longer. But he did the most amazing makeover with the cymbal brand, with the cymbal range. You know, he streamlined it. He went out personally to China and handpicked, literally. Wow. You know, went to different factories and said, I want this, I want this, I want this. Him being a drummer himself, you know, knew what he was talking about, and the result of that was the sensor range and the Genghis range, which is, those two series are kind of like a coverall, if you like, suitable for all manner of styles. We still do the single hammered series, which was the first series that we came out with. We still do that. Yeah. Still very, very popular. But with sensor and Genghis, we're doing equally as well with those particular series. You know,
excellent.
And, yeah. So but to answer your friend's question, at the moment there's no plan to make anything higher end. We're kind of, you know, keeping it as it is. I could be talking complete rubbish. I mean, they could be you know, planning something right now without me knowing about it. But since Eric's departure, like I said, he was so instrumental in raising the profile and getting just new product. You know, getting rid of the chaff and bringing in some new stuff. He was the linchpin to it all. So without him now, I know that we're looking for somebody else to fill his boots. I don't know if we have yet, but I think we'll find somebody. But I loved Eric. Great guy. You know, I really miss him. You know, just professional to the last, and really just a great guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
He had another question,
yes,
which is not drum related.
Okay.
How long did it take you to grow your wicked beard?
I love it. Thank you so much. A wicked beard. I'd say, right. Okay. Well, the length of it, I trimmed this the other day.
I was going to say
believe it or not.
I stole a photo from your Facebook to send to the guys to promote, to say, oh, have you got any questions? And you did. It was slightly longer in the photo.
It was a bit longer, yeah. It was getting intertwined with my chest hair, you know, and I was finding bits of cheese and egg inside. You know, I had to keep it a bit tidier. This has probably taken me it would have taken me a good year, I say, to get it to this length. I mean, my beard was probably about the length of yours at the time I started to grow it out. And it probably took about a year, maybe 18 months to get it sort of down here. And it's,
wow, okay.
The amount of stuff I need to do to it to kind of keep it in place is ridiculous. Obviously I used to have hair at one point. I went bald at 24, but before then, wow, I had long hair, and I was buying all the stuff and buying all the products to put it in it, and gel and sprays and all that kind of thing. So I think what I'm doing is I'm kind of making up for the loss of the hair that's on my head by being a tart with the beard I have. You know, I'm putting wax in the tash, and you know,
it looks tremendous. I got to say.
Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. I've grown it a bit longer than mine now, but it gets to that point where it starts getting straggly, and I'm like, nah. Yeah, no, get it all off. Yeah. I get that, and I toy with that idea myself. Like probably every 2 to 3 months, I'll say to my wife, thinking about trimming my beard, and she says, no, and I go, okay.
It's exactly the same thing I get. I can't, I'm not allowed to shave it off completely.
No,
I can trim it down to a particular number on my beard trimmer as the minimum. I can't go lower than that.
No, you got to, well, this is it. And especially for somebody like myself, with the way that, my face is constructed, my head is constructed. If I took, I'd have no definition in my face. I'd look like an egg, you know? So it's nice to have something to kind of like break everything up. And I've had a full beard since 2003. I stopped shaving when I went on holiday with an old flatmate of mine. We went to America. We did a bit of a road trip.
Nice.
Out in the States. Yeah, we drove from from New Jersey, where we were staying. We drove all the way up through New York State, and into Canada, into Ontario. Went up to Toronto, then up to Montreal. It was amazing. And we both sort of set ourselves should we not shave for the duration of our holiday? Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's see how that goes. That was the last time I shaved.
Wow.
2003. Yeah, there you go.
Amazing.
20 years ago. Literally 20 years ago. Good God, I've had a beard for 20 years. Mental.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congrats, Amy. It's very nice.
What a brilliant question. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, cheers, David, for that. That's great. Hopefully,
Thank you, David.
They were very, very nice answers. So
yes.
We're coming to the end now. I've got a quick fire
Yes,
round that I can blast out to you, just
Go.
so people get to know you a bit better. I might have to edit some of them because you're not
It's
a
not a
drummer.
problem. No, it's not. It's okay.
You're a musician, so some of them are still very relatable.
Yes. Okay, go.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? Cheese.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. Okay. As a food group, cheese.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh, okay. Alien, the original one, the
awesome.
first one.
I know the answer to this. Guitar or bass? It's going to be guitar, right?
It is.
Okay. You don't play drums, so I'll skip that one.
Yeah.
John Bonham or Neil Peart?
Neil Peart.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah. Well, no disrespect to John Bonham.
No.
At all.
I try not to disrespect anyone, but it's
no.
it's a good question because they're both like the most legendary, inspirational drummers ever, but they're very different. So
totally different styles. I mean, I know, even though Neil Peart was heavily influenced by John Bonham, but Neil Peart made it his own.
Yeah.
It's I'll try and be very brief here. It's when you track Neil Peart's sort of career, well, not track his career as such, but there's such a marked difference between his style of playing from, say, because he only joined Rush on their second album.
Right.
First album was a different drummer, so he joined John on the second album. He's a really busy drummer on the first album that he's on, quite sort of all over frenetic, raw. But fast forward to a couple of years after that, he's progressed so much within those 2 years. He's more fluid. He plays. He's not kind of like. He's like, and it's such a transition in such a short space of time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I've mentioned it before. He's still one of those drummers where I've heard a lot of Rush stuff, but I haven't delved into all of it, and I don't know the kind of order that it came out. So right. I like listening to things in context. Yes. Right. So when this came out before this one, and around then these bands were big, because you can kind of sometimes share where the influence came from, or just generally how this music, how, because I was born in '86. Well, all of these amazing classic bands, most of their best material, I guess, is often referred to as being, 70s, 80s stuff. So I have to kind of retrospectively listen to it.
Yes.
Based on what I think was around at the time. It's kind of different to listening to it in today, where you've got everything that's come since.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. No, I totally get
what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do need to listen to a few more Rush albums, and
I'll gladly send you some recommendations.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, because it's an act of 3 parts 4 parts in my in my perspective. But
send me the best. Well, not the best, in your opinion, your favorite albums of each part.
Okay, yeah, I will.
Give me a little kind of idea.
I shall indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great idea. Brilliant.
Okay. Big or small venue?
Oh, small venue.
Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Beatles.
Correct answer. but no, nothing against the Stones.
Nothing against the Stones, but
the Beatles are better.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, look at how they were. Okay, forgetting the Hamburg years. I know they were sort of together since the late 50s, but when they broke, what was that? 1962. So you take the material they were doing in 62, like, you know, ooh, I wanna, you know, that kind of fantastic. In a short space of time, you know, they're doing, you know, like 4 years later, Rubber Soul,
incredible,
Sgt. Pepper's, you know, you name it, White Album, and you think, my God, they're a different band.
Yeah, how is it the same people?
How are the same people doing this such amazing music, but they sound pretty like a completely different band.
Yeah,
I mean, you either love them or you hate them, or are relatively indifferent to them. But I think, you know, the Beatles were probably the most important, you know, rock band ever.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, again, I'm looking retrospectively, as I guess you are.
Yeah.
I know you're not that old.
Well, 52 next birthday, mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Cool. But yeah, I'm a big fan anyway. But
yeah,
I've never listened to a Rolling Stones album, so maybe
neither have I. I mean, you know, I know all the hits, all the, and I don't have a problem with them. I went to see them. This was during my studio days, actually. Well, when I was working at Ridge Farm, I was working with a band called the Urban Dance Squad, and their producer was a guy called Phil Niccolo, and he had come over from the States, and he was a studio owner himself. He had his own place out in Philadelphia, but he came over to the UK to produce and engineer this Dutch band called Urban Dance Squad, who are fantastic, by the way. I'll send you a link to them as well. They were, oh God, I could write a book. I know I could write a book with all these little anecdotes. That
you literally could.
Yeah, I really could. They were the blueprint for Rage Against the Machine.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, they were doing rap rock a good 3 or 4 years before Rage Against the Machine were. And Rage Against the Machine themselves say, yeah, Urban Dance Squad were a major influence. Anyway, did an album with them. Phil Niccolo, the producer engineer, came over to the UK. Me and him got on like a house on fire, like really hit it off. And he invited me out to his place out in Philadelphia. Said, come on over, you know, book some holiday, come on over, come and see the studio, hang out with us, which I did. That was an amazing holiday. I mean, I wouldn't dream of doing anything like that now. I mean, I was fearless in my 20s, absolutely fearless. I wouldn't think twice about, oh yeah, I'll get on a plane and by myself and I'll go to a place I've never been to before. You know, if I couldn't do that now, I'd be like, oh my God. Anyway, so I went out there, but I went to see, he got tickets to see the Stones at the stadium in Philadelphia. Wow. And they were brilliant. I mean, live, amazing. They are amazing. Even back then, it was like 94, I think I went to see them. So, you know, they would have been, in their 40s by then, early 50s maybe, but really enjoyable. But again, you know, I wouldn't know one Stones album from another.
No.
Shameful, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, if you're listening to this or watching on YouTube, if you love the Stones, and just tell us what albums to listen to.
Please do.
That are as good as any Beatles album.
Yeah.
And tell us why.
Yes.
And but I'd love to see the Stones actually, and it's amazing that the fact that they're still touring is incredible.
They're still going. I can't believe it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. So I would like to see them, despite not knowing many songs. But you know, there's lots of massive bands I never listened to any of their albums, so I need to change that. Too busy podcasting, to be honest, and touring and and stuff like that.
Just exactly.
I don't have time to listen to music.
No, neither do I. I'm always I'm either working, eating, or sleeping.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I don't have time for such things.
Yeah. Right. This is becoming a long, quick fire round. Sorry.
Sorry, mate.
Favorite time signature?
Oh, bloody hell! I'm not a drummer. Okay, I'm just going to say 4/4.
Okay.
Because I don't understand anything else.
Okay, fair enough. I thought because you said you were into prog, you might be a bit more partial to one of the other ones. I'm not. Fair enough.
I can't read music. I don't understand notation.
Okay.
I'm all by ear.
Cool.
But yeah,
that's nothing wrong with that. That's great.
Mm.
Favorite rhythm section? So bassist and drummer.
Oh, well, I'm going to say Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, aren't I?
Yeah.
However, I mean, let's just. I'm gonna. This is Nick Seymour and Paul Hester. Crowded House.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah.
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 Just amazing. I mean, yeah, underrated. I'd say.
I would say, yeah. I was going to say,
especially Nick Seymour as a bass player, is just like phenomenal.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the names, so I know the band obviously, but few tracks.
Yeah, I tell you what. Really, all you need to know about Crowded House is their first 4 albums. I'm not poo-pooing anything else they've done after then, but the first album. So yeah, Crowded House. Temple of Low Men is the second album, which is my favourite.
Okay.
Then you got Woodface, which is the one that kind of broke them with Weather With You on it and that kind of thing. And excuse me. And then their fourth album, Together Alone. They're amazing. Amazing.
Cool. Let's just check. I'll check those albums out.
Yes.
The next question is actually name an underrated band.
Name an underrated band. King's X.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Favorite album of all time?
Oh. Favorite album of all time. That's really okay. Queen, A Night at the Opera.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. That's very, very good. Favorite drummer of all time? Neil Peart or?
I will say Neil Peart. Yes, because he is my favorite drummer of all time.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Was he a Remo artist when he was alive?
He was indeed. Yes. In fact, I was very, very fortunate enough to be able to blag some guest passes at their last tour of the UK.
Wow!
So this would have been the O2 down in London. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm not shy in coming forward when it comes to stuff like this. I'm quite cheeky, and I've managed to blag some pretty decent gigs. Obviously, I didn't get to meet any of the band, and to be honest with you, I didn't want to because I think I don't know, but it's about meeting your heroes can kind of shatter your illusions. The thing is, Neil never did any kind of press or any kind of meet and greets. He was a very, very private person. He'd always be out of the stocks and onto the tour bus and gone by the time 5 minutes after the gig had finished. But I did manage to get into the green room afterwards, which I felt incredibly uncomfortable being in. Just a bit out of my depth. But I did get to see their manager, who again he's quite legendary anyway. Within the kind of Rush camp, Ray Daniels is a known name. But what made me laugh actually while I was there, so I was seated in the VIP section of the O2. It's where anybody who got a VIP pass would be sat. So I was sitting there enjoying the show, and I just sort of looking around, looking over my shoulder to see who's there. And 2 rows behind me was Nigel Glockler from Saxon. And, all right, Nige. I feel you all right, and I just thought, I thought to myself, wow, I've got better seats than Nigel from Saxon. That's what I thought to myself.
I bet he was furious.
Oh well,
he's one of the nicest guys in the world.
He's lovely. I've only met him once. Well, no, twice. That obviously that time at the Rush gig.
Yeah.
But no, I met him at one of the drum shows
Cool.
some years ago, and when he introduced himself to me, he said, "Yeah, I'm Nigel Glockler from Saxon." I'm like, because I was.
Yeah. That's what you were into.
I'm 12, 13 years old again. I'm listening to Denim and Leather and Crusader and so into it. I'm like, oh my god, lovely guy. Really sweet guy. Yeah.
It just made me think about uncomfortable green rooms.
Yes.
You've never been in an uncomfortable green room until you've been in Rammstein's green room. And I'll let you I'm not going to give you any details.
Okay.
I'll let you think about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not wholly familiar with Rammstein as such. However,
okay.
I do know who they are and what their shows are like and just how unique they are. Okay. Debauched? Okay. Quite debauched?
I'm not going to say anything.
All right. Okay. Don't say a word.
But yeah,
is it the midgets with trays of drugs on their heads?
not quite as bad as that. But, yeah. But anyway, it just made me think. It just brought back a memory of when I felt really uncomfortable. But no, that's amazing. Right. So to end this podcast,
yes, sir.
First of all, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I mean. Before we say adieu, I was genuinely flattered when you asked me to do this because I thought to myself,
"Don't be silly.
I'm just some dude who sits behind a computer and talks to drummers and I'm not significant within this industry. I get up, I do a job, and I enjoy what I do." So when you asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, especially seeing the alumni that you've already had on your show, I was like, wow, what am I going to talk about? I've got nothing to say. I'm not a very interesting person.
Well, you are, because we've just done almost 2 hours.
2 hours.
And
2 hours.
It's been great.
Waffle.
It's been nice. But like you've just underestimated yourself there because you've literally just told me about all the albums you've worked on.
Yeah.
Well, like some of the artists you've dealt with, some of the guys you've met, how the industry works. A lot of people don't know how that side of the industry works, and it's very important.
Yeah. Of course, that's understandable. Yeah, completely understandable.
And I think that's why, obviously I had Martin Potts on last year, who you know.
I do know Martin very well, bless him. Lovely man.
Lovely man. So I just think, I'm going to, try and get some of the, A&R guys, industry people that I do know.
Idea. Yeah, great idea.
Just to, change it up a bit. They're not all just, not every guest has to be a live, pouring drummer.
Nothing boring about drummers at all, mate. No. I think they're some of the most interesting people I've ever met. I'd rather talk to a drummer than a guitar player, that's for sure.
So would I. No offense. But anyway, to end this now, the final question, which everyone has to ask, I have to amend yours a bit because you're not a drummer.
Okay.
But if you could create your own dream band, with yourself on guitar.
Oh, okay.
Anyone dead or alive, who would you have playing the other instruments?
Who would I have playing? Who would I love to play with? Okay. That's a great question. Oh my God.
You can kind of have any instrumentation you like.
All right.
So there are no limits.
Okay. Me on guitar, singer, vocalist. Shit. George Michael.
Okay.
Seriously. Yeah.
Okay.
George Michael on vocals. On drums, who would I like to have on drums? Jesus. Not Jesus, obviously. Wow. God, this is tough.
Well, you wouldn't have Neil Peart then?
Couldn't have Neil. No, I wouldn't have No. I'd be too intimidated by that.
That's understandable.
Somebody who I I could relate to and who I could talk to. Let's think about this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ash Sohn on
Oh,
drums.
wow. Yeah.
He's
amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, great guy, great drummer, just on it. Ash Sohn on drums.
One favour then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you must know him.
Ask
him kindly if he would ever come on the show. I did email him once.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah,
I didn't get a reply, but I didn't expect a reply. I
was actually meant to see him last week because he's on tour with Tori Amos at the moment.
So now's a bad time.
He's just about to go. He's just about to go out to Europe for the next maybe couple of months, I think.
Wow.
But listen, Dane, I'll be more than happy to drop him a line. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to getting to see him because of something happened, and but yeah, I know. Here's another thing. I've never actually met him.
Oh, okay.
I've only ever had a relationship with him on the phone and by email and stuff. But the times that we've spoken, we talk. It's like we've known each other for a long time. So I have a good relationship with him. But he's a phenomenal drummer anyway. So he is, drums, bass player, bass. Okay. I'm going to say Nick Seymour. Nick Seymour from Crowded House. And who else? Say keyboards, throw that into the mix. Oh, he's a great keyboard player. Rick Wakeman.
Yeah, he's everyone's favourite keyboard player.
He is. I know.
Much.
It's because nobody name a keyboard player.
I don't know that. The only one, to be honest, keyboard is one of those instruments where, even though I couldn't play one to save my life, it's not something I'm not interested in. But obviously, the only other big rock one I think of is John Lord.
John Lord, yes, but rocking the Hammond, yeah,
different kind of vibe.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
But I don't listen to that much music with keyboards in, not intentionally, anyway.
No, I understand. Yeah, by accident. I listened to an album with keyboards on it by accident.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it is. It's just it might be my generation. I just don't think it was ever been cool. Since saying that, my old band, we had a synth player, and that was cool at the time. One of those micro Korg things. But that lasted a couple of years, and then it kind of wasn't cool anymore.
No, well, I tell you what, mate. I mean, in recent years, I've been, whether it's got to do with nostalgia, I don't know what it is, but I've been getting quite heavily into sort of 80s synth music.
Nice.
And the thing is that growing up in the 80s, I never listened to that sort of stuff. I was more into, I was listening to heavy metal and rock and that kind of thing. So it's not until my later years I've really appreciated how great it is, how great synth music actually is. It's just so atmospheric, and I just love it. Yeah, I think Stranger Things has a lot to do with that as well.
Probably.
Yeah.
You hear those kind of sounds now on all sorts of other things and adverts and stuff. So it's definitely influenced
heavily. Yeah,
massively.
Absolutely. Again, I think it's coming from a perspective of nostalgia more than anything else. How great the 80s were. Well, they weren't really. We're on the verge of nuclear war half the time. Inflation was through the roof, but growing up, you didn't really kind of notice it. It was, but looking back, it was a very highly influential decade. I think. Yeah, I think it was probably one of the most important decades for music there ever has been. I'd say the 60s and the 80s were.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Just in terms of its diversity, I think. So the early 80s, you were just coming out of punk, and it was all a bit spiky and new wave, and by 83 it was, production values on stuff was just phenomenal. It was such a stark contrast between listening to an album that was produced in 1980, and then 3 years later, you're listening to something that was recorded wholly on a Fairlight, a computer, and it was just, it's unsurpassed, I think.
Okay. I think it's like I was born in 86, so I don't really have any memories of it, really.
No,
it was a bit of family life, but like in terms of, I wasn't old enough to kind of know what was going on. But when I look back, apart from rock music, I looking back, I'm not fond of much of the other stuff I've been exposed to, and I think it's maybe because I didn't live it. Maybe if I'd lived it, I'd have that nostalgia kind of special place in my heart for it. But
probably. I mean, so you were born in 86. So what? You're 20. How old are you now?
36.
You're 36, mate. Okay, all right. So when did you start getting into music? When you were about? I suppose you'd always been exposed to it anyway.
Yeah, but it was more rock. Like it was the rock kind of and the metal stuff, I guess. Yeah, my dad, and then I was like in the early 90s, for some reason, I mentioned this on another podcast that me and my brothers were listening to like Steve Vai and Satriani and instrumental guitar music.
Yes.
And then all my friends in school were listening to the Spice Girls and Boyzone and things. And it was so bizarre because we were just like freaks, really. We were listening to all this. I was in I want to say year 5 or year 6, and it was like a talent contest.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people did all these dances and stupid stuff. And I mimed with a I had a Hohner Stratocaster. That was my guitar. And I mimed along to Big Bad Moon by Joe Satriani with a harmonica solo. But I mimed to it. I didn't play it, but that was my talent. But I was like how many other kids that age were doing that?
Yeah, probably
at that time. At that time, it's probably more common now. Probably saying that you're going to have 8-year-olds playing that song and better than Satriani probably did.
Yeah.
Maybe not
quite. Close enough.
Yeah. Yes. But so like it's weird. So we were in our own little bubble, I think, of we weren't really doing things what other people were doing.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this has been fantastic, mate.
Thank you, Dane.
I have to put an end on it at some point. So
of course. No, I'm sure you're going to go back and edit this, but or maybe you won't. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I only tend to edit things out if if there's a technical issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like not pleasurable to the listener then. Or if someone asks me to, because sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I did say that about that. Can you take that out?"
Oh, right. Okay.
I've had the occasional requests for people to say, "I kind of wish I didn't say that about this."
Yeah. Well,
so I'm like, fair enough. Up to you. Yeah. More work for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great last couple of hours. I've really loved talking to you, Dane. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And
no problem.
And I hope people enjoy it and get a sort of better understanding of what I do and where I've come from.
I'm sure they have, and obviously they'll be more aware of the brands you mentioned. And feel free to try them.
Of course, absolutely.
The great thing about being a drummer is that you can kind of, even though I said I'm OCD and I don't like doing it, you can mix and match anything you want.
You can, there are no rules. Yes, there are never any rules,
and that's what I always say. There are no rules in drumming. So if you want to try a Stagg crash cymbal just to see what it's like, stick it in with the rest of your cymbals. You might like it.
Yeah, you never know. Absolutely.
Or Remo floor tom head.
Yeah.
Why
exactly.
Not?
Why not? Just do it.
But no, that's awesome. I'll let you go.
All right, mate. Nice.
Thank you. Thanks again.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
We'll hopefully, meet in person at some point. Like I said, I don't think I can make the drum show. If I can, I'll hit you up.
Yeah. Please do.
Because I do like going to those kind of things.
Great.
And thanks for listening, everybody, as well.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to me waffle on for the past 2 hours and 15 minutes of utter garbage.
Drum for the Song podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Drum for the Song podcast. If you've enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave me a review or comment, that would be fantastic too, as it helps other people discover this show. Please also consider sharing this with any family members or friends who might enjoy the content. You can also follow me on social media at Dane_drums or at Drum for the Song, or search for Drum for the Song on Facebook to follow the page and join the official Facebook group. If you'd like to support the podcast, you could purchase some merchandise from drumforthesong.com, or consider supporting me via Patreon from just £3 per month for additional exclusive content like bonus episodes, video calls with myself, competitions, discounts, and much more. Any additional support is always greatly appreciated, but I would like to give extra special thanks to my top tier Groove Master patrons, whose names are listed in the description below. My name is Dane Campbell, and thanks so much for watching or listening this far. If you're a drummer, don't forget to drum for the song.